Mark Green's desire for revenge on Chad DiMera is a deeply rooted, complex emotion that has likely been festering for years, fueled by a tragic incident that has haunted him and his family. To understand why Mark has set his sights on Chad, it's essential to delve into both their pasts, uncovering the layers of pain, betrayal, and unresolved anger that have culminated in this dark and twisted vendetta. Chad DiMera is a character who has undergone significant transformation over the years. Once a troubled youth, Chad's early life was marked by a severe drug addiction that led him down a destructive path. His parents, desperate to save him from himself, eventually sent him to military school, hoping that the strict discipline would straighten him out. While Chad did manage to turn his life around and build a successful future, his past is littered with mistakes and moments of deep regret. Moments that may have had far-reaching consequences beyond what even he realizes. One of the most compelling theories behind Mark's vendetta against Chad centers on the possibility that Chad was involved in the tragic deaths of Mark's parents. Imagine this scenario. During one of Chad's lowest points, while under the influence of drugs, he might have been involved in a car accident that claimed the lives of Mark's mother and father. This would have been a catastrophic event for the Green family, shattering their lives in an instant and leaving young Mark to pick up the pieces. The aftermath of such an accident would be devastating. Mark, who was likely still very young at the time, would have had his entire world turned upside down. Losing both parents in a single, horrific moment would not only leave him emotionally scarred, but also thrust him into a position of immense responsibility. With no one else to rely on, Mark would have been forced to grow up quickly, becoming the guardian and caretaker for his younger siblings, Felicity and Aaron. As Mark struggled to cope with his new reality, Chad DiMera's life continued on a different trajectory. After his stint in military school, Chad began to rebuild his life, eventually finding love, starting a family, and rising to a position of influence and power in Salem. To an outsider, it might seem as though Chad had left his troubled past behind, without any consequences. But for Mark, who was left to shoulder the burden of his parents' deaths, this was an unbearable injustice. The possibility that Chad might have been responsible for the accident, or even indirectly responsible through his involvement with drugs, would have planted the seeds of deep resentment in Mark's heart. Over time, this resentment could have grown into a burning hatred, especially as he watched Chad live a life of relative ease and happiness, seemingly unscathed by the events that had destroyed Mark's family. Another possible scenario is that Chad, during his days of drug dealing, might have sold narcotics to someone who then provided them to Mark's parents, leading to their accidental overdose or death. In this case, Chad's involvement would have been indirect, but no less significant. For Mark, knowing that the drugs Chad sold were the cause of his parents' demise would have been just as painful as if Chad had been directly involved in their deaths. This lingering trauma could explain why Mark has gone to such extreme lengths to exact his revenge. The pain of losing his parents, combined with the overwhelming responsibility of raising his siblings alone, could have warped Mark's sense of right and wrong. In his mind, Chad is the reason his life was torn apart, and he is determined to make Chad pay, even if it means crossing lines he would never have considered in the past. Mark's plan to destroy Chad's life is not just about revenge, it's about justice, or at least what Mark perceives as justice. By hiring a woman to impersonate Abigail DiMera and tampering with DNA results to convince everyone that she was biologically related to Jack Devereaux, Mark has demonstrated just how far he's willing to go to achieve his goals. These actions are calculated, cold, and methodical, suggesting that Mark has been planning this for a long time, carefully considering every detail to ensure that Chad suffers as much as possible. There's also the psychological aspect of Mark's vendetta to consider. By targeting Abigail, Chad's beloved wife, Mark is striking at the very heart of Chad's happiness. Abigail represents everything that Chad has worked so hard to build, a stable, loving family that stands in stark contrast to the chaos of his youth. By undermining that foundation, Mark is not only seeking to punish Chad, but also to destroy the life that he believes Chad does not deserve. Furthermore, the fact that Mark has taken on the role of caretaker for his younger siblings, Felicity and Aaron, adds another layer to his motivations. This responsibility, while noble, is also a heavy burden, both emotionally and financially. Mark may see Chad's relatively carefree life as a slap in the face, a reminder of what he has lost and what he must now endure. In this light, Mark's actions could be seen as a desperate attempt to right what he perceives as a cosmic wrong, to balance the scales by making Chad suffer in the way that he has suffered. It's also possible that Mark's need for revenge is fueled by a sense of loneliness and isolation. While he may love his siblings dearly, the pressure of being their sole provider and protector could have left him feeling trapped, with little room for his own happiness. Seeing Chad, who he holds responsible for his misery, live a fulfilling life could be the final straw, pushing Mark over the edge and leading him to pursue a path of vengeance with single-minded determination. As this storyline continues to unfold, it's likely that viewers will learn more about the specific events that led to Mark's grudge against Chad. Whether it's a long-buried secret from Chad's past coming to light, or a shocking revelation about the true nature of Mark's parents' deaths, the drama is sure to reach new heights. What's clear, however, is that Mark's actions are driven by a deep personal pain, a pain that has been festering for years, growing into a dark obsession that has consumed him entirely. In the world of Days of Our Lives, nothing is ever as simple as it seems, and the line between hero and villain is often blurred. Mark Green may have started out as a decent man, but the tragedy that befell his family and the burden he has carried ever since have twisted him into someone capable of terrible deeds. His quest for revenge against Chad DiMera is not just a plot to destroy a man's life. It's a desperate attempt to find some sense of closure in a world that has been unforgiving and cruel to him. As viewers stay glued to their screens, waiting to see how this intense and emotional storyline plays out, one thing is certain. The showdown between Mark Green and Chad DiMera is far from over, and the repercussions of their conflict will undoubtedly shake the very foundations of Salem.